I was right. It's actually very possible for Clem versus Zoun to be the qualifying match to get into the playoffs of EWC. So, yeah. Clem faces the winner of a play-in winner, which we don't know yet. And then Solar versus Zoun is the first match that Zoun will be playing. And Zoun has a very good chance of winning that. Well, I should say he has an equal chance of winning that as Solar does. They're very, very equal. So I think I even gave him a bit of the edge when I talked about it. I think a Ligilag also gave him an edge over Solar. So anyway, this could actually be happening next week. This actual game would have happened like 3 weeks ago or something, because we're talking about the groups for RSL right now. But yeah, point still stands. The meta hasn't changed all that much. I mean, TVP right now, we're kind of, I feel, figuring things out as far as are SCV pools going to be as rampant as they were in those GSL seasons? They don't seem to be. And is PVT an issue for Terrans, or is it an issue for, like, the non-Clem Terrans? You know what I mean? I feel like those are the questions we're asking for this matchup. Zoun has been looking pretty strong. I mean, to actually qualify into EWC is a very good result over some other very promising Korean players. And he also has been, I think, just sharp. You know, just not really any critiques that I have on him. PVZ, PVT, PvP. Clem, though, kind of a god at PVT, or versus TVP. He's also very good at PVT, actually, which is an important point to note, because he almost will certainly be playing Protoss versus Terran at EWC. As far as I know, that's what he's only been practicing. So, unless he's done a real switcheroo and has practiced off stream and, you know, off tournaments as TVT. But anyway, back to his TVP. Probably the best in the world at this point. Cure 100% was the best TVPer in the world approximately 2 years ago. Might have held that title technically, statistically for a while. Maybe statistically he still does. I'm not sure about that. All I know is that Cure's TVP statistically has gone down. We did look at that when we were studying. It has absolutely gone down. Whereas Clem's has either gone up or has stayed similar. And then before, people were like, he plays worse Protoss. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But I still think he's very good against the top tier Protoss. That win rate doesn't change that often against the likes of like Zoun, I suppose, or Classic, or I was gonna say Zest. Where the hell did that come from? Anyway, we do have Stalker Zealot on the front lines. A little bit of that early aggression, reminding Terrans to take them seriously in the early game. Unfortunately, 2 Reapers and a Hellion seem to be just good enough. The Zealot gets the kill on the Hellion. That's still not as important as the Stalkers going down. So he had 1 Stalker going down, a Hellion and a Reaper so far. SCV still going to have some trouble finishing the command center. And I suppose at the end of the day, that's really what Zoun would want from this. You know, if he could kill every unit, he would have had even further delay on the command center. But he would have a huge delay, actually, because the Marines would be the only defense at that point if he had a Stalker and Zealot alive. But that was not going to happen. Not with Clem's control. Zoun, with a little bit of that early aggression, is ultimately going into Blink, 2 gates, Robo. He's got a pylon being built at the very top left. I think that is just a scouting pylon. It's so early on. You don't have that many pylons early on as Protoss. But there's definitely an argument to putting the 3rd pylon down elsewhere. There's also an argument to being wary of a tank drop, killing this only pylon that you have powering this. Just throwing that out there. I don't know if that actually is what happens, but I do see tanks in the production tab. Another pylon, again, is a scouting one. I mean, it does scout the medevac, but it was also already kind of scouted. This was a Stalker Zealot opener, so noteworthy, no sentry. Didn't know exactly what was going to be sent his way. You know, I could actually see some argument against going for sentries. I mean, the problem is, right, this is absolutely going to be a cycle, is that as soon as Protoss players are like, basically every Terran's factory expanding into a medevac drop of some type, I'm totally A-okay, is when the Terran's going to be like, wow, this guy isn't scouting me. I'm going to go for like a tank push. I'm going to go for a proxy something. I'm going to go for an early aggressive attack. And then Protoss going to be like, ah! And they're going to go for a sentry fast again. I feel like that cycle will continue for a while. But for now, predicting, you know, just a Widowmine drop or even just a Marines and a Cyclone drop, you know, that's a lot of TVPs. It wasn't Cyclone. It was only 1 Widowmine. Tanks have been built back at home. It is not 4-gate blink, but it did end up being 3 gateways, so just the other one being in the main base. And we do have charge on the way as the third Nexus looks to complete. War Prism in the main, alongside a decent number of Stalkers threatening it, but it looks like it did not like what it saw. One siege tank, another one popped out. Auto turret even providing a lot of DPS, and a good number of Marines. You add that all together, and the Stalkers don't really want to do what they were thinking about doing. Even though it was a decent number of them, 10 Stalkers were created, they are not going to find any way to get into the main base. So Clem, I mean, some of the Terran players may be playing a little more cavalier. They may be like, this guy's not really going to dedicate on the Stalker pressure because he's going to get his third Nexus, he's going to get his Robotics Bay, and he's going to try and play that macro game. But if there's one person who's going to be wary and extraordinarily good against Stalker pressure, it's going to be Clem, because Max Pack still does all the time. Other Protoss might not be doing it as much. They might not get the War Prism with a 3 gateway. They might not actually build the Stalkers. They might go 2 gateway, for instance, as well. One Protoss definitely still does the blink Stalker pressure, and that's Max Pax, and that's who Clem faces all the freaking time. So unfortunately, Zoun's aggression isn't really going to work out. It's not like it was a huge committal from him, but it is, kind of a noteworthy committal at times how many Stalkers they actually produce off of this. Do they get the War Prism? That's 275 minerals that could have gone elsewhere. That is so far not doing any damage, but in my opinion is always worth it. Robotics Bay is about halfway done. All your gateways you're going to need on those 3 bases too, as our minerals are saturated in 3 gas is the game plan. Stalkers just wary of the move out. That's really all they're waiting for. And there's not much for Clem to do except make sure the War Prism doesn't do damage, and then the Stalkers don't catch like his Medivacs, for instance. You know? Holy shit. The Observer, I don't know if it saw that or not. Because if it saw it, you think the Raven would have seen the Observer. But it looks like Zoun was just wondering if there was going to be a drop. There hasn't been any movements. Sim and combat shields should be finishing up. Like, what's going on? Doesn't manage to catch 3 Medivacs. Heading on over to a 4th base, of which he is about to create. So, the timing. He almost had 400 minerals. I think that's exactly when he was going to slap down the Nexus. And that probably would have been killed, not canceled. Just the timing would have been so unfortunate. But the army was actually built up back at that 3rd base. Gets the Raven and kind of surprises Clem, I want to say. Otherwise, he would not have taken the fight in that fashion. He got up close and personal to those charge lots very quickly. But in the main base he goes. Forge taken down. That one, the pylon I was talking about, does get taken down. This pylon also looks a little vulnerable to me. But it's not going to be taken down. And we do have 3 Medivacs moving on away. 2 Medivacs still full of units. It is a little scary. Zoun has not been able to do the equivalent with his War Prism, as he also has not seen the rest of the army move out. It wouldn't really be worth it. The Observer is finally going to move as it sees the army congregating, and the 3rd CC is planted. Zoun took quite a blow there. Losing his upgrade, now going to go into the double forge, but still losing a long period of time for the upgrade. And then also being delayed heavily on the 4th. Not exactly uncommon. The 4th is not a guarantee if the Terran has, units. But it was a long denial of the Nexus. Like, seriously, as soon as he had 400 minerals is when that drop occurred. I'm pretty sure that's when he wanted it. That's at least a minute lost on the Nexus, right? And that minute is big because if you had been building it the entire time, it's already done. It's already providing a shield bag. It's already providing fast warp-ins. And it's already maybe even mining a little bit. Instead, we gotta wait for the shield battery, as well as the fast warp-ins. And Clem's army is already here. Warp Prism did go into the 3rd, though, however, and that is a little under-defended. Warp Prism also in the main base. Clem still going to go for the 4th Nexus, gets that cancel, and is looking for more. His army is incredibly scary. Equal upgrades currently immortal on the front lines, dangerously close to being able to be sniped. Zealots being warped in, tanks will siege up. 2nd Colossus arrives in the nick of time. An aggressive blink forward as well. Woo, that's dangerous. Tanks properly focus fire the Colossus, now chunking into those Stalkers. This is going to be a cleanup. Meanwhile, Clem lost 18 SCVs at home, as well as a certain number of his reinforcements, I would suspect. But a lot of reinforcements are at least here. He's not going to be counterattacked and killed. 3rd CC is still alive, but he is at a 28 worker deficit. Zoun does not have to rebuild workers. He just has to wait 400 mineral-wise and then plant his Nexus down, and he will be golden. Clem has such a long road ahead of him to clean up this mess. He's got that 25 army supply lead. He's got the upgrade lead as well, but can he do something with it? 4 Vikings ain't bad. Only 1 Colossus will be on the field. Clem's moment is here, and he knows that. Zoun also figuring that one out. Wanted to try and track the army a little bit more. Unfortunately, did not see it going after his 4th Nexus. So another cancel, very important, you know, keeping Zoun suppressed. Zoun actually thought he was going to get the 4th Nexus up. He's at the 70 probes, and now he's really oversaturated. But his army supply looks to be solid enough. A couple of warp-ins later, and their army supplies are matching each other. Upgrade still goes to Clem, but that's too many Zealots. The Colossus can't be touched by the Vikings with so many Stalkers chasing after, focus firing down the Marauders as well. And Clem is struggling to find the damage he really needs, because the 4th Nexus cancel is the first step. But another 4th Nexus is on the way. Hell, I feel like Zoun might even be able to double expand. I don't think you double expand with the intention of actually mining from both expansions, but perhaps with the intention of one of them going down, basically. Oh, okay, well, there you go. All right, there you go. 4th base is on the way, 5th base as well, because also, in a perfect game of which you never had to cancel your Nexus, a 5th base would be probably coming down now for this matchup. It's actually the way it goes. But Zoun, you know, he gets a 5th Nexus. That is a lot of money going into something that's not rewarding him yet, 2 Nexus. He does still have the army that I think would be able to control the game. It's not going to win the game, but control the game. Stalkers tracking the main army, Colossus and Immortals and whatnot back at home, ready for any type of drop that would come across the map. And Clem, well, yeah, kind of the time at which you say I really can't do anything more. If I try and all-in here, let's say, you know, just like throw everything that I have across the map, Zealots will come in and ensure it's an all-in. They'll kill all my SCVs. And then Defender's Advantage would be so difficult to beat. Force fields on the ramp, Colossus, Disruptors. So, if you can't be aggressive, then you're probably going to have to be defensive. Scouts that Observer, nicely done. Warp Prism sitting up to the top left, Zealot to the bottom right, and only Stalkers on the front, but Clem needs to be very afraid of the possibility of an entire army being at the front. I mean, you know, Zoun really could, but Zoun is playing cautiously, wants to know that his 5 bases will be intact in mining. And he's already saturated his 5th the most. He's already saturated all his bases, good lord. He went up to 70, 82 probes. Difficult game for Clem. If he gets his 4th base up as a planetary, I think that's when Terrans can breathe a sigh of relief to a certain degree. But 2-2 is on the way. Zoun has made up for the lost forge earlier on. He's working his way up to 3-2. Getting a Dark Shrine as well, no doubt with Blink to provide that extra option to go for the attacks on the economy. That is so many Zealots, good lord. A couple of Wood Mines going to be helpful. A couple of EMPs as well. Hitting as +2 attack finishes at the very least, so Clem has that going for him. Dodges that way the Disruptor. Chases the Colossus down. One Disruptor does hit. Doesn't quite kill the Marauders, but the Zealots trying to come in here. Get those last swipes. The Colossus are down. The Zealots are falling. The Disruptors are being focus fired alongside the Immortals as well. And Zoun is going to lose a large chunk of his army. He did have a run-by to the natural, but it looks like it doesn't actually do a whole lot of damage. Disruptor number 3 misses. Mostly Zealots at this point, but just enough of an army to tackle that. All prior to that ground armor level 2 being done, by the way, which I think would have really helped that battle. But yeah, natural was cleaned up thanks to reinforcements and a bunker by the looks of things. Warp Prism in the main never happened, I think, is what happened. I think that's how it went down. I thought there was something over there. I think there was, but it died, or the Zealots that were there were used. Oh, it was Zealots. That was what it was. I think the Zealots just went a part of the main army. So, yeah, only one run-by to try and do the damage that the front push didn't, as well as stall out the counter push. Doesn't work out. Clem is able to do something of a counter attack, let's say. He takes the map, is what he does. That's not really a counter attack, and that is so many Zealots. One of mine is going to be necessary, but one's not burrowed. 3 will be burrowed now, however, and that's going to be the trick right there, especially the Zealots clump on up. That's a lot of damage on them. A lot of Skittle Zealots going down right now, but do we have enough firepower beyond that? 2-2 versus 3-2. Stalkers coming in here. Medivacs being targeted down at this point. More Wood Mines burrow, though, and that is going to be it for the Zealots. Clem holding on to this game, but he is still down 22 workers. Zoun was able to grab a 5th, and then, of course, a 6th, which also has a lot of mining being done on it. Clem's fourth might be able to mine, but he is still losing out in the economy. He needs to take even better trades than what he's been doing. So far, only about a 3,000 resource trade advantage for him. It's not quite enough. Water mines, once again, going to have to be great here. A couple of them do pop off. EMP also necessary, but that is not maybe enough. The disruptors also shoot their shot. One misses, doesn't get sniped. Zealots head into the natural, kill the bunker. Oh, the disruptor gets sniped. This one will not get a shot, and Clem does hold on. The Zealot numbers are getting thinned out right now. Disruptors aren't getting the shots that they would like. No other attack on the way. Clem's 3-3 did start, but it's still such a long way from finishing. Meanwhile, Zoun 3-2-1 now. Shields will finish. Maybe a disruptor getting sniped right there. Nope, unable to do so. Clem has been trading so often, he really can't afford to go for a couple of Liberators, which would be helpful. Draw a line in the sand. It's not something he can afford. Speaking of air units, by the way, he does not have any Vikings. The Colossus has finally been built, but the Vikings are grounded. But it's still not enough of them. And this is going to be Clem tapping out. GG. Zoun is able to throw reinforcements after reinforcements. Not a lot that Clem could do. I mean, you could say Clem, maybe before he lost more and more of those battles, he maybe could have sent out a drop. But it is very difficult for Terran in that scenario. Sending out a drop doesn't guarantee damage. A single drop of 8 Marines gets cleared up by reinforcements. If you send out more, you either die to the frontal attack or they recall. And then you don't really feel like you've made a lot of headway. Probably still better than what happened, though, because if they do recall, at least you can try and get on the map. But very difficult time for the Terrans in this moment. With, you know, the 3 to 4 base Terran versus the 5 to 6 base Protoss is where we're seeing a lot of Terrans struggle to find that back and forth. Occasionally we get great games. Occasionally, like, what was it, Cure versus Classic, I think? That was a really good one. But, yeah, a lot of other Terrans struggling. Bottom left, you do have Team Liquid's Clem. Top right, it is Zoun, who does have a team. I think he's on Team Vitality, if I remember correctly. I was right. Nailed it. So, Zoun played a PVT, about 75% of that PVT, kind of to perfection, as in, that's the beat, that's the drum line, that's the, I don't know, some of the music term, I don't know, that a Protoss really wants to adhere to. There's a lot of changes to it. There's all, like, the wind instruments doing their thing, or I don't know why I chose a music analogy. I'm not very good at music at all. But anyways, like, that might change. How many times you might say, like, oh, the Terran has a chance. How many times you have to rely on mass zealots to defend you because you did overstep with your more expensive army. That might change a little bit, but the core is still there, and Zoun played the core out very nicely, which is getting your expansions up, getting superior upgrades, and then taking repetitive battles, really being a Zerg player versus Terran. Not as drastic in the resources lost trades as the team matchup, but still same idea. It was the first 8 minutes of the game that were the most precarious for Zoun. He lost his Forge. He was dealing with a drop. He had lost, I mean, you know, the 4th Nexus a couple times. We'll cancel it. But it still wasn't enough for Zoun to actually buckle. Zoun just kind of stayed the course. Made some nice moves with the run-bys, try and give him some room. Did some nice micro-maneuvers when he did have the chance. The focus fire, the Stalkers, when the Zealots were given chase. You know. And it just brought him to a really more comfortable position where you do have that bank, you do have that economy to rely on. And for Clem, you know, as I said, maybe you go for a drop, maybe you fit in Liberators earlier. It's difficult because, for the Terran's perspective, a drop, again, as I said, might not be worth it supply-wise. Their supply gets reinforced instantly. They beat your supply, no problem. It might not be worth it to do because they can recall, to go for like a big Doom drop. And then a recall doesn't feel like you gained that much headway. Liberators are also not just something that can be expensive to build, they're also something that changes how you fight with a Terran army. So if you are running around, maybe having a bit of a more of a back and forth, you go into Liberators, that actually drags you down quite a bit. And so going swiftly into them is basically more so a sign to the Protoss that you really are playing defensive. That there is more opportunity, perhaps, to try and play around your army and try and, you know, throw different tasks at you. And eventually, the Liberator count gets enough, covering all the bases, and then your bio army is 100 supply and whatever. Then the Protoss has to be worried about the Liberator counter, the one that has 8 Liberators with all their upgrades. But it's just so difficult to get to that point while not kind of giving the Protoss a wide berth, letting them do a lot of stuff to stop you from getting to that point. So anyways, I mean, I don't think I need to be reminding everyone how tough it can seem for Terrans, again, to that 3 to 4 base scenario for them. Because as far as the 1 to 2 base to 2-3 bases, I guess, you know, we know the Terrans have a lot of opportunities to try and do some damage. But Zoun has opted for a Sentry Opener this time. He has already sent out Hallucination. He knows it is a 1-1-1. And while that doesn't guarantee a defense, because they can change up where they head with it, they can change up doing a drop with it, they can change up doing a frontal attack with it, you know, it still does give them a lot of information. And generally, the best Protoss players are able to avoid taking catastrophic damage. And that would be Zoun's goal at this point. Not trying to be fancy with the Stalkers. Might not even go for the Warp Prism, actually. I mean, he is going up to... Oh, he's going up to 4 gateways. Well, definitely a Warp Prism then. Alright, my bad. 2 gateways already built. 2 more being built and properly defended. This Reaper cannot get a look into the main base. So bringing out kind of the old 4-gate. Was dominant in the meta for a period before Terrans started to really figure out how to deal with it. Even then, the best 4-gaters in the world were still abusing it. And then it did finally really fall off. And we're more so seeing the 3-gateway as that perfect middle ground. Maybe aggressive, maybe defensive. Clem was already really well set up in the last game against what was only a 3-gate. If he does the same type of setup, he probably has a solid chance to defend. But it would be lovely to scout the fact that it is a 4-gate. Medevac goes into the main base, only to be denied by the Stalkers, so they will not see the additional 2 gateways. Third Nexus is planted, however, so this is not the most dedicated 4-gate. I think the Stalkers would have come sooner. The 4 Stalker obviously would have come sooner. Slight differences. Slight differences. But, yeah, still kind of scary. I thought that was a Zealot. Oh my god, that was a Sentry. Okay, the Sentry force field on the ramp. The bunker does finish in the nick of time. Although the tank falls, the bunker should do the trick. I thought for sure that was a Zealot. Who sees a Sentry be put out first like that? That's like putting the baby on the front line. It's like they'll be distracted. Of course, obviously, he was aiming for the force field on the ramp. I get that. It's just... Yeah, thought he was going for a Zealot drop. So the tanks would be, fighting each other. But the Sentry kind of did the trick as far as making sure that the tank was killed. It didn't really do much else as the attack was ultimately thwarted. Clem, that bunker, perfect timing. Banshee comes in as well, which was a surprise. I think it was, just because, yeah, he didn't hallucinate anymore. He was using that Sentry for other things, so he stopped hallucinating. So the Banshee comes in as a surprise, but a very quick recall and an observer timing back at home works out for him. Wouldn't mind dropping the main base, does not find incredible damage. And it looks like Zoun will stop any bleeding back at home, which is quite important because with his dedication more so to the 4-gate than the 3rd Nexus, like he really isn't doing particularly well on the economy. If he had taken, let's say, 10 probes of the damage, he'd be probably in a lot of trouble. As it is... This is not going to, how to say, it's not gonna, you know, match the pacing one would desire in a more and more macro PvT, but I think Zoun can actually find his way out of it. It's up to Clem to be able to follow up. And he's got 2 Banshees, so keep that in mind for his own production and his own pacing. 3rd ZC is on the way. Hallucination will be able to get sight on that before it dies. And the game continues. But yeah, not having that 8-probe lead as soon as possible to make up for the 2 mules. It's certainly worth talking about. Zoun has to buy time. Fortunately, a Warp Prism is great at that. And when you buy time, maybe he'll be stuck on 3 bases for a little while longer, but hey, that was kind of like last game. He was stuck on 3 bases for longer than what we usually want, and he still managed to make that work. Soccer number 1 goes down before the rest blink out. Army goes out, War Prism goes in. It's beautiful, it's magic. Cyclone is there, but it's not on patrol, although it's still, okay, War Prism actually gets in a range on it. It is going to be micro to the last second, but not able to take out the War Prism. Tank now under fire, War Prism goes back in. Can it save the Zealot? Saves 2 of them. Banshees are going to provide a little bit extra on the way of damage, but also a little bit of scouting. Observer is here, however, and that is once again hell of it. It's even worse Artosis Pylon than last game. It's even worse. 3 gateways are depowered. Whoops. And it looks like the Stalkers are once again under pressure. I think another Stalker did go down. Clem's attack is a-coming. Equal upgrades. Zoun on just 1 Colossus. Does need a little bit more in the army supply, but the Banshees are also hitting his main base. 2 of them still available. Pierce with that shield battery, no problem. And that is probe damage plus distraction. Good number of units sitting behind there, too. And it looks like Clem's like, the Banshees doing it. Banshees are good. I'm not even going to try. Whatever. I'm not even going to go after you. Maybe fearing that War Prism will once again come back in. But 14 probes killed by the Banshees. The off-timing Banshees. They do it again. And I'd say that is very worth it. It is 14 probes later on in the game, but it is 14 probes when Zoun was already not on the best economic footing. He had already gone for a 4-gate. Did not work. It wasn't the most dedicated 4-gate at all, but still. And then he had also taken a little bit of damage to the first Banshee, and then a lot of damage to the 2 Banshees together. So this is making sure that Zoun is really suppressed. I mean, Clem is actually holding his head underwater, and Zoun is going to go for a desperate maneuver. He's going to try and take him down with him. Clem has a same army supply, but tanks are sieged up. Zealots trying to run on through, but unfortunately not going to be able to take out all of the tanks. 3 SCVs go down in that very bold maneuver. That was just like, just rush him. Just go for it. And that did not end up working. And Zoun is, again, not technically all in, but without a 4th Nexus, although one is being put down now, he's really not able to take fights like last game. I mean, this is more like a classic TVP, right? Where it's like the Protoss, well, theoretical classic TVP. The Protoss has a chance to build up this really strong army, but they're not going to build 2. They're not going to build 3. This is more of that period of TVP that existed some years ago. It's like, can your 1 army do the trick? And when you're down almost 30 supply and an upgrade, well, equal upgrades. I mean, you probably won't. But Zoun, he did one very bold move in. Kind of got slapped around for it to a certain degree, but he will be able to use his army to at least defend. And the possibility of him making a comeback here is not 0. I do think it would be a comeback, but it's not 0. 4th base will finish up. 5th base is on the way. That might not even be touched, just as Clem really focuses on killing a 4th base and ultimately killing Zoun. Clem's own 4th base already turning into a planetary. This is a beautiful setup for the Terran player. You got your upgrades on the way, your production's finalizing, 2nd starport's here. The Protoss player has not matched or really exceeded your base count like they should. And so their ability to reinforce is going to be limited. One good battle for the Terran might just win Clem the game. And Zoun basically has to make sure he never takes that fight. Not until he has a more comfortable bank. Or an absolutely perfect fight. It's very difficult to do so when you have this army. Disruptor also kind of getting left behind there. The way that this army wins against this army is that if it goes into a choke, and Disruptors hit, I suppose, too. But there's no Disruptors. But a choke, maybe. Clem does have 8 Vikings, so Colossus can't abuse the choke forever. Zoun is trying to max out. But push is coming to shove, and Clem is already on Zoun's doorstep, which means that even if Zoun does start to build a bit of a bank, has the opportunity to build a kind of second army, it's going to be on its reinforcement point. 2-2 is now done for the Terran. A 2 upgrade advantage. Vikings top of the Colossus, not really being taken down particularly quickly. Zealots coming in from an awkward angle, not really overwhelming the bio. That's an understatement. This Terran army stands its ground for the most part and slaughters everything Those upgrades certainly helped, but it was also just a very impressive Terran army. I mean, Zoun, the way that Protoss is right now is you got to chip away at this type of army. And there you have it. Those reinforcements coming in at the reinforcement point just means all the Zealots get slaughtered, the pylon gets deleted, and that is going to be Clem taking game number 2. Well, they do. It's just, is it because Brood War is more interesting, or because they have more to talk about with Brood War than they do in StarCraft 2? Because I think at that point, you compare, you know, like Pig nerding out about every little detail in the first 10 minutes of StarCraft 2 to Pig then attempting to cast Brood War, which would be probably at most, well, this guy has 3 factories and is maybe doing a 2-base all-in. And then you're like, wow, that also has a very drastic change. Interesting. Anyway, Maganatha, top left Clem, bottom right Zoun. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Tastos have a drastically different style of casting Brood War versus StarCraft 2. Drastically different. I do think that, and to be more on the topic here about Brood War, I do make fun of what I think are general statements made too broadly and too commonly, and I think they're mimicked too much. Like, 6 workers would solve everything, Brood War is a much better game. I do actually believe that Brood War has a higher chance of a great game. That's what I believe. I am, at the very core, a slight Brood War elitist. That's a way of it. And I am prepared to be the most elitist StarCraft 2 person if a StarCraft 3 ever released. But yeah, I do think that Brood War has more potential. But I also think that has to do a lot with how they've already grown their scene. And how StarCraft 2 is really, it's like back into its teenage years as far as the scene. Not the meta. The meta is actually very old and cranky and yells at children on its lawn. But the scene, I feel like, is back in the teenage years. Where it's just like, we're really trying to figure out what we want to be and what we want to provide. And like content creation wise and pro gamer wise, I guess. And map making wise. And I would really, really prefer if maps just ended up being crazy. Because if we're too scared of the game being broken by patches, which is a legitimate fear, then maps would be the easy way out of it. But now it's my turn to be the cranky old boomer. Anyway, we do have Clem going for 1 Rax expand. Didn't lose the SCV. Only a slight amount of lost building time. Reaper did not kill the probe. Boom. There you go. That's a summary. Flight Council on the way for Zoun, and Clem goes into a factory. You know, apparently, just thinking of maps and EWC coming up and stuff, apparently EWC is going to be played on this patch, as in there will not be a fix for the Cyclone. Got that confirmed recently. So that'll be interesting. How many times will a Zerg player die to a Cyclone build? And how much will that tarnish the victory? Oh, that finds the Reaper. Wasn't it EWC or it was Gamers 8 at the time? Wasn't Gamers 8 also when the Colossus bug existed? And that was before people realized it? Not quite able to drag the Widowmine over to the SCVs, which seemed like it was a bit of an intent there. It's cute. But not possible. Zoun only went up to 3 gateways this time, but also prioritizing that 3rd Nexus. And no Warp Prism. Well, you can't blame any professional Terrans for building Cyclones, I mean. You just can't. Oh, the Colossus was patched before. I couldn't quite remember. Was there reason to believe it would be fixed in time for EWC? I think people were hoping that someone hired maybe like a mod maker to make a mod that fixed it. Because that is very, very possible, I would say. But it would require someone to actually do it! Oh, Jesus! Ah! That could have been so much worse. Holy shit. 5 probes is better than a bajillion. But, you know, it's supposed to be 2. Alright, cool. Little heart palpitation wakes you up in the morning. Anyway, what is it talking about? Oh, that a mod could be made. That's right, a mod could be made. But it would take someone who actually does that, probably pay someone out of their own pocket because no one's going to afford it, and then implement it. Get like the like technical legal way to do it, which, you know, you're like, they don't even care about us. Why would it matter? Why isn't just someone like taking the reins and doing this? And it, unfortunately, no matter how much someone doesn't care about someone else, they will absolutely still be litigious against them. Litigious. That's right? That's the right pronunciation. Yeah, exactly, because the Colossus one was fixed for a long time because of a mod. Yeah. So I think that's why people had some hope. But nope. And, you know, I actually haven't seen it abused too much, but obviously it does happen. Third CC is on the way for Clem after what could have been a catastrophic Widowmine drop. It was just a good one instead. Zoun did go for that fast 3 Nexus. Not for 3 gateways, sure, but still. No Warp Prism, not a lot of Stalkers being warped in. So his economy was already pretty good. It was, you know, reduced more than he would usually want. Finds the Medivacs too. Gives Clem a little bit of a heart attack right then. And Clem is going to do the old switcheroo. He's like, I'm leaving! Just kidding, I'm not leaving. The Medivacs will be heading over to, it looks to be the main. The Raven's already there. Might help the drop actually drop. And then we also have the Widowmine drop still present. So that's a lot of things for Zoun to keep track of, including the front's attack that could happen. He's got an observer, so that shouldn't be a problem seeing the army move out, but it's going to be a problem trying to protect himself against everything that his opponent can throw at him. Raven used the auto turret to kill 5 probes. That's pretty good. This observer will be seeing the Medivacs incoming, so Zoun shouldn't take a lot of damage at this one. But he does have Stalkers every which way. Oh, he just saw the move out. The Stalkers went to go meet the move out. Now they're recalling, and that might have actually been when Zoun was supposed to. Okay, that is because of the drop going in. Okay, good job. I was afraid he had gotten distracted, looking in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he also had more army waiting for that too. Raven finally scouts the observer. He's like, hey, second, how'd you know about that? And that'll be another opening for Clem, perhaps in the future. Scan ahead reveals mostly Zealots here, which he is going to be able to tackle with Marine Widowmine. The force fields are a little scary, and that's actually exactly what happens with the force field. Do not trap the bio, and the Zealots get obliterated by the Widowmines. All pretty darn good hits right there. 4th base is also canceled, so Zoun is able to mind that. And the Widowmine drop is still distracting 3 Stalkers. The scan reveals it, I guess. So the scan doesn't even see the Stalkers, but the Widowmine drop does. I guess he was looking for the technology and the gas count, because he hadn't seen a Colossus yet, so he was wondering. He saw an Immortal, so he knew it was a Robo. I mean, obviously it's a Robo. But might have also just been looking just to see if the army was there and how big it was. Zealots found in the middle of the map. That's a big loss for Zoun. 600 minerals down the drain that were supposed to buy time and kill a couple of SCVs are found instantly as Clem is attacking him. That is a big loss. Zoun really losing a bit too much every single time. Still has these 2 Colossus to depend on. No Vikings out as of yet, but we do have 9 Medivacs and the Raven, although Raven's going to die. Auto turret barely helps out, but that is not a very large Protoss army, and that is enough Marauders on the front line, squeezing past those force fields to kill the Colossus. Immortal should go down next, and Zoun is in too much trouble. He is going to lose game 3. What went wrong so fast to make it so drastically different to the first 2 games? GG's. I mean, he did lose more probes. Yeah, I guess it's in the probes plus the Nexus being so much later Because the Nexus was canceled, but also probably should have been built faster to begin with without the probes that were killed. And then Zoun wasn't actually equipped to attack like this or defend like this, I guess. Like, he probably should have just canceled that again. He's in big doo-doo even if he cancels it and leaves. But that just went so wrong so fast. Clearly based off of a lot of other things that happened. But there was nothing huge that happened. Top 3 is Hero, Cyril, Clem. The 7 worker lead. Well, it should have already been saturated, so that's the 7 before this happened, I guess. That was 5 workers down, 250 minerals. And another 5. Gets the Nexus. Shouldn't build more probes because Nexus not going to finish anytime soon. Gets it canceled. Takes a lot of losses over here, too. Yeah, I guess this was actually a double whammy. I mean, it was a triple whammy. So he loses 5 extra probes after losing 5 to begin with. So that's 10 in total so far. Then he gets a canceled 4th Nexus, and he loses, like, 8 Zealots inefficiently. All right, GG's. Hero is gutsy? Nah, I don't think Hero's gutsy. There are 3 of the 4 people who made it to last year's round of 4 in the EWC. I feel like I said those names as top 3 just because I think they're all very strong. And then I looked at last year's EWC and I was like, logic! I have logic on my side this time. Not even feelings. It's logic. And then the 4th person was Dark, who's not here. So I said classic. I think it'll be 2 Protoss in the round of 4. Protoss never